friends. It's November 7th. How are you? I know people are busy right now with midterms and things like that. And we also have CT2 due on Wednesday. If you have any questions, be sure and reach out to us. We're happy to help. Remember, when you do CT2, you're going to have basically 4 charts, 2 from the first investment calculator and 2 from the 401k calculator. And you're going to run 2 scenarios, hypothetical scenarios under each calculator. So you're going to say, hey, what if I put in $5,000 and I never put any more money? What happens? What if I put in $5,000 and then I put in $100 a month? What happens? And then under the 401k scenario, you can say, well, this is how much money I'm going to make. This is how much money I'm going to put in, maybe 5% of my paycheck. My employer will match. Then what happens if you put in 10 or 15% of your paycheck? And then you'll talk about the results, and you'll talk about employer matching and the importance of employer matching, and you'll talk about the magic of compounding interest, which is the magic of investing early and seeing what a big impact it has when you do start investing early, which is what we want all of you to do.
Watch all your money grow exponentially. There's a video that guides you how to do it. There's the slide deck that is reiterated here in terms of the slides that we put into this, and here's the investment calculator. You click here. Here's the 401k calculator. You click here. You can see the exponential growth in the money right there, and that's what the kind of curves you're going to generate when you do the IRA, which is the investment calculator. And then down here, this one allows you to put in your salary, how much you expect to have an annual increase, and you just play with it, have fun. And yeah, so that's the way that works out. And this pie chart just kind of is a different way of representing it. So you're going to get a different representation there. Remember to compare and contrast what the Roth IRA is all about. That's in here too. And so here's your, we make it pretty straightforward, guys. There it is. All right. So that's the rubric that we use and when grading it. So just, kind of check all the boxes, and that's it.
Okay.
Very
now
cool.
let's get on to this week's topic. So as you probably know, I'm an attorney and I teach about elder law in the gerontology school, and I have a passion for today's subject, which is healthcare, power of attorneys, and living wills. Basically, we have this reading, which I think is pretty simple and easy to understand for me because I'm a lawyer, maybe less for you, but I'm going to try to walk you through it. It's an advanced care planning tip from the National Institute on Aging. And there are many, many really good resources on the internet. You do not have to pay for a lawyer to put together a living will or an advanced directive. There are free versions on the internet, and we'll talk a little bit about good sources for that at the end. But basically, everyone needs an advanced directive once you turn 18. If you care about who's going to make decisions for you, healthcare decisions when you're incapacitated, it is a really good idea to have this document. So, we have it set up, both of us, John and I, and when more recently we updated ours and we set advanced directives up for both of our sons who are 26 and 20 so that they would also have these documents to set up what they want to do.
And this is a conversation you should have with your parents. Every aspect of this class is very applicable to what's going on now. When you do your financial planning, CT1 or CT2, I'm sorry, you talk to your parents about it, I swear.
Okay, then. So today's the perfect day to talk about this. So I'm a cancer patient and I'm doing great. I've had treatment. I'm in decent partial remission. But I once a month go down and get an infusion to keep my immune system strong.
Watch, I keep talking, I'll show off.
So anyway, John loves to photograph and document the process. But anyway, so because I'm a cancer patient, I've had to think about my healthcare decision making, who I want to make decisions for me if I'm incapacitated, what I want if things don't go well. This is us. Oh, this is us today.
Yes.
Hi, us. Fight on.
So this is the treatment she gets once a month. This bag, by the way, costs $15,000.
It's worth every penny.
Once a month.
Worth it.
And yeah, so this is the treatment for these consequences. They're intertangled. And yeah, so that's it. Anyways, yeah, very
So
cool.
anyway, there I am in my comfy chair with my two pillows and my blanket. I'm like, I want things the way I
And
want
you see, it was,
them.
you see right here in the red box, it was freshly put together today, and once they put it together, it has to be used that day. So
Okay, so
that's my
anyway,
other class, but I thought you would trip out on that. So
enough
okay,
about me.
okay.
So anyway, here's the deal. Once you turn 18, you should have some sort of document that sets forth what you want to happen if you are incapacitated and unable to make your own healthcare decisions. So you get in a car accident, you fall and hit your head when you're skiing. You maybe you get a little bit older like me and you have a chronic health condition. So you need to have these things set up. So quite a few people, the document says 1 in 4 older Americans will have to make treatment decisions near the end of life, but will themselves be unable to make those decisions for one reason or another. They might have dementia, they might be in a coma, things can go south. So this is why we want everybody to have a legal document that sets forth either what you want to happen, that's a living will, you tell your doctor, this is what I want to have happen if I'm unable to make my own decisions, or an advanced directive power of attorney where you name someone to be your healthcare decision maker. And I think, especially in these days when a lot of people, you may form a couple but not get married, it's important if you want your partner to make those healthcare decisions for you rather than someone else who is a blood relative. It's important to put this down in writing. So John is my healthcare decision maker. I trust him implicitly, and we've had a lot of
She's
conversations.
worth a lot of money, though. I don't know.
You never want to have too much life insurance. So anyway, I trust him. We've had many, many conversations about what I care about, what's important to me, etc. So the things you have to think about and the things you have to decide is if I am, say, near the end of my life, or if I have a catastrophic accident or a catastrophic illness, do I want CPR if my heart stops? Do I want to be put on a ventilator? Do I want artificial nutrition and hydration, so tube feeding, IV fluids? Do I want comfort care? Most people want comfort care. So the CPR thing, the thing to remember is that if you are young and healthy and your heart stops, you're playing basketball or something like that, yes, CPR is a really good idea. You're young and healthy. We're probably going to be able to get your heart started and you're going to be fine. If you are an older, much older person, if you have a serious health condition like I do, and let's say not today, but let's say 30 years from now, if I'm not doing well, so that I'm in a terminal situation, then doing CPR, the odds of it being successful are less than 1%. So this is a conversation to have with your doctor. Would CPR be effective for me? Would it work for me? So it's not like on TV where everyone has CPR and they get up and walk away and they're fine. So something to think about. Do I want CPR? Do I want to be on a ventilator? A lot of people before the COVID pandemic would have said, oh, I never want to be on a ventilator. I never want a machine keeping me alive or breathing for me. Now, sadly, because of COVID-19, there are definitely medical situations where someone may be very ill, may go on a ventilator for a period of a few weeks, and then may be able to recover and come off the ventilator and go on to live a happy life. So, so I think with some living wills, you can say, I want a trial period of ventilator use. I want a trial period of some sort of treatment before to see if it works before saying, no, I don't want to be on a ventilator long term. So there's a lot of options with these documents in terms of how you set things up. Do I want artificial nutrition or artificial hydration? These are really human things. Do I want basically food and water? It's very hard for your family member to make that decision for you, to take that away from you. But one thing I do tell people is in my conversations with hospice providers, quite often we find out that if someone is close to death, providing them with artificial nutrition or artificial hydration may just prolong their discomfort. Giving someone fluids when they are, comatose or close to comatose, lying in bed, going through the process of dying, can cause fluids to accumulate in the lungs, which can make breathing more difficult. So it's very important to understand an individual person's situation and whether or not nutrition or hydration would be appropriate in that situation. Comfort care.
Does that include Girl Scout cookies? How about indica?
Okay.
How about indica or sativa?
Yes. For a second, I thought he was talking about the other kind of Girl Scout cookies, which is a whole nother story. So one time my son told me he thinks his roommate is selling Girl Scout cookies. And I'm like, well, that's a little weird for a college student, but you know, and he says, no, Mom, Girl Scout cookies are pot. And I learned that thing that day. So anyway, comfort care is important. Most people want comfort care, particularly if someone is close to death. Comfort care can help with pain, pain meds for any sort of pain, medications to assist with breathing. If someone's having anxiety or agitation, medications can be helpful. And there's a whole variety of support systems in place for people who are in hospice to provide. I have a good friend who's a hospice chaplain who provides religious support and spiritual support for people who are dying. So there's a lot of great things that can happen through hospice or through comfort care. Et cetera. I want to talk about the difference between hospice and palliative care. All hospice care is palliative. It's to make you more comfortable, but not all palliative care falls under hospice. So basically, hospice is designed for people who are terminal within 6 months of death, and they are not going to be treated any longer for their underlying condition. So if you're a cancer patient, you agree that you will now not get treatment for your cancer anymore, but you would rather get treatment to help you breathe, deal with pain, et cetera, and keep you comfortable. And studies have actually shown that people who enter hospice care have a better quality of life and live longer than people who do not opt for hospice. And here's my dog.
And she sounds like she needs hospice, but she's been running around the backyard. I can't tell you how bad her breath is.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay.
All right, keep going.
We love her anyway. So, okay, and she's old. Now, palliative care is something you could have at any time. So if you have a chronic condition that causes discomfort, you could have a serious condition, maybe you have metastatic breast cancer and your life expectancy is 10, 15 years or maybe forever. Maybe you have a fantastic life expectancy because we find a cure for whatever your condition is. However, you might have things that cause problems, maybe problems breathing, maybe problems with pain or discomfort. And so you can get palliative care even if you're not terminal. You can still be treating your underlying condition. And so palliative care is a great option that a lot of people aren't completely aware of. So, okay. When you're thinking about what types of interventions you want or what types of treatment you want near the end of life, you have to really think about your values and what's important to you. What you want may change over time. What you want when you're 20 could be different than what you want when you're 40 or what you want when you're 60. At my age, I think about, well, I don't want to be a burden for my family. I don't want to linger if my quality of life is bad. So I would probably seek less aggressive treatment if I were in a terminal situation than I might have if I were 20 and in good health and looking forward to the rest of my life. Think about what you want, think about what is important to you, and communicate and have the conversations, if you can, with your loved ones and the people who need to know this information when you're not able to make your own decisions. So would you, if you were paralyzed and your heart stops, do you want to have CPR? If you have a terminal condition and you develop pneumonia, do you want to be treated with antibiotics? Dementia is a very hot issue. Because dementia can be kind of a long, slow decline, and people who have dementia are not able to make decisions sometimes for quite a few years before they die. People now are putting together kind of dementia care plans while they are still competent to say, I don't want to be fed against my will. If I turn my head away and if I'm avoiding taking food, don't try to force me to eat. Don't give me artificial nutrition, hydration, things like that.
Because you can't rely on that person sometimes because of the legal word, capacity.
Yes.
They're not capable of making rational decisions because they're demented.
So what we want is to have people make the decisions about the types of healthcare that they want in a terminal situation, typically while they are still competent. So you can put together one of two documents, and a lot of times these documents are combined into one, a living will, which is basically your directions to your doctor to say to your doctor, this is what I want and this is what I don't want. I don't want CPR. I don't want to be on a ventilator. I do want comfort care. Or what the option I like a little bit more because I'm a lawyer is a durable power of attorney for healthcare, which is more flexible and broader. So I name a person to make decisions for me. My durable power of attorney for healthcare may also include my thoughts about, do I want CPR? Do I want to be on a ventilator? Do I want antibiotics if I'm terminal, et cetera? But it also would allow, let's say I fall and hit my head. It's not a terminal event, but I'm unconscious and I need to have surgery. It would allow John to make whatever decisions need to be made while I am unconscious and unable to think or act for myself. And so you pick your proxy. You want to pick someone that you trust. You want to pick someone whose values are aligned with you. You want to pick someone that you can communicate with to ask them to do these things for you when you're not able to. And so I think having a durable power of attorney for healthcare is a great, great option. So there's some other documents you can have. Keep going down. You could have a do not resuscitate order. So that's an order that tells staff, if you're in a hospital or a nursing facility, that you don't want your heart to be restarted if your heart stops. And so you could have a living will, but a DNR is a little bit easier in terms of paperwork. You'd have a bright purple or bright pink document in your chart or a big sign that would say, do not resuscitate. Sometimes people will order medallions or necklaces that have a little do not resuscitate medallion on it. You might have a document that talks about whether or not you want to be an organ or tissue donor. That's done in California through the DMV. You put it on your wallet and you designate yourself as an organ donor on your wallet, on your driver's license, I mean. There are a few other things you have to think about. If you have a pacemaker, if you have an ICD, which is an implantable cardioverter defibrillator, my uncle has one, then if you want at the end of your life to have this thing turned off so that your heart doesn't keep getting restarted by this machine that you have implanted, then that's something that you need to put into writing in your living will or your durable power of attorney for healthcare. So, okay, keep going. There's also a few other documents, something that's a little more, I don't want to say trendy, but it's a progression of what we have, going from a DNR, which is a do not resuscitate order, which is very straightforward. I do or I don't want CPR. A POLST or a MOLST, physician order for life-sustaining treatment, gives more options. So you can say, I don't want CPR, but I do want artificial nutrition and hydration. I do want pain meds. So it gives you a little more flexibility. And that's a document that can be signed by your doctor and witnessed, et cetera. So when you set up your durable power of attorney or your living will, it's important to make sure that it's authentic and real and that these were your wishes. So typically these documents have to be signed by witnesses or witnessed by a notary public so that someone who is verified, this is who you are, you signed this document, and you were competent when you did it. So that helps to have that. Once you have that document in place, then what are you going to do? Are you going to throw it in a filing cabinet, which is what 99.9% of people do? No, you're going to give a copy to your healthcare decision maker proxy. That would be John. Give it to your doctor. I recently, because of electronic health records, I have a patient portal through several of my doctors. So I've uploaded my advanced directive to my patient portal. So now it's at least in the system if anyone should ever need it. When John's mom, she was 95 and we knew that she was close to the end of life, we had copies of her advanced directive in both of our cars so that if anything happened and we needed to present it, we had a copy with us in the car. So, just make sure you don't throw it in a file cabinet and not ever give it to anyone who might need it.
It can make for delays and strange things happening at any facility they're at if you don't have these documents. It is what it is. Yeah. So.
And the other thing you need to do is revisit these documents from time to time. So 5 to 10 years, depending on how many changes you have in your life. If you get married, if you get divorced, if you have a falling out with family members that maybe used to be your healthcare decision maker, but you don't want them to make decisions for you anymore. With us, we had to update our document because my mom, John was my first decision maker. My mom was my second decision maker. She passed away. And in the meantime, our children got old enough that I trusted them to be our decision makers. So now
my oldest is 26,
yeah,
and so he's in charge.
John's my number one. My older son is number two, and then my younger son, because he just turned 20, is number three. And I would trust any of them to make decisions for me. And if one person can't serve, maybe they're sick too, or maybe they've moved or something like that. It's a good idea to have backup and backup. So 3 people lined up. Make sure your document's valid in your state. There's a little quirk in the US that maybe about 46 states have similar requirements. So there can be a generic form that works in about 46 states, but then we have a handful of states that have little wrinkles. So make sure that you get a document that's valid in your state. Make sure that if you split time between 2 states, you should probably have a document for each state. Some people, now you're students, so you may be bouncing back and forth between LA and another state where your family lives. As people get older, sometimes they have, a winter home and a summer home. Sometimes people go to Florida and warmer climates in the winter. So they would need to have a document for Florida and then document for Illinois or wherever they live, New York, wherever they live in the remaining time of the year.
So you could even print this out onto a card, say, and cut it out.
Carry that in your wallet.
Put it in your wallet.
Yes, absolutely. So scroll down a little bit. So we have a couple websites on here. They're all good. I particularly like caringinfo.org. And of course, I'm fond of the American Bar Association. So if you scroll down a little bit, you'll go to the American Bar Association. Yeah, the AmericanBar.org. But there's many choices of, like I said, free documents online that are reliable and can be used. So I think that's everything I want to say about advanced directives.
All right, let's move on to probably the discussion.
The discussion.
I'm just going to get back into that week.
Week 12.
Right. And look at how together she has. She had 3 hours of infusion this morning, and it does kick your ass a little bit. So
in a good way.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's like she's got these powerful antibodies in her now, and but your body has what's called its own
cytokine storm,
own immune response. So you release these cytokines, and just like when you get an infection and you feel kind of feverish and funky, this happens sometimes with this. Okay, all right.
So anyway, one of the things I put into this unit is a little bit of information about independence and individual autonomy or individual decision making. And the reason for that is that our United States perspective on medical decision making is very different than you might see in some other countries. So here we place an enormous emphasis on the individual making their own decisions as long as they can, as long as they're competent, as long as they have the capacity to make their own decisions. And in a lot
like Aaron Rodgers did the last couple months.
Ouch. So in a lot of other countries, the families make the decisions, the families communicate with the doctors, and oftentimes the doctor won't even tell the patient, hey, you have a terminal condition, or hey, you have this serious thing, because they don't want to worry the patient, but they will follow the wishes of the family. And that's not necessarily the case in the US. So we really have this emphasis on individual autonomy, respect for that person's needs, beliefs, wishes, etc., and upholding their independence and their decision making and keeping them independent as long as possible. Okay, so scroll down. And now that kind of feeds into our discussion, which is about cultural diversity in aging. And I think when you see how different countries treat things like making decisions as you get older about your healthcare, it just points out to us that we need to also be sensitive to our elders and their cultural backgrounds and their belief systems and the kind of where they're coming from. So we have linked you to the APA website.
It's a nice short read, easy read,
And there's more resources there if you're interested in it. But just to consider, especially in the US, we're going to see a big increase in the number of Hispanics. And I think really, if you look across demographics,
Really,
we're seeing
all
that
cultures. You know, it's a,
we're seeing in the U.S. an increase in Hispanic and Asian communities in the numbers and population. So we're gonna need to be able to address different communities and that have different cultures and different customs as people get older. So that we also have these two videos that talk about the importance of culture and pointing out all the different things that make up culture, language and food and religion and customs and we just had Diwali this week, so festivals and celebrations that you might have in your culture. And so that when people are older and vulnerable and maybe living in a senior community or living in a nursing home or reliant on others for care, we really need to respect what their experiences are and recognize that, communicate with people in the language that they're comfortable speaking as much as possible. That makes a huge difference in the quality of healthcare that you get. Respect people's religious beliefs, respect people's cultural beliefs. Make sure that in a place like California where we have a lot of cultural diversity, make sure that if you operate a facility or you work in a facility, that you understand you're going to be getting people with a lot of different languages, a lot of different beliefs, and you're going to have to reach everybody where they are.
so like down here in San Clemente, if somebody joined your facility, you would give them a MAGA hat. But if you were to do it somewhere else, like Arcadia, that's something different. All right. So, but it is, I mean, someday you guys are going to be business leaders and you don't even know it, but you're going to see this opportunity of God, all these older Americans have a lot of money and I can make their life better and make money at the same time by forming these businesses. And then you'll form a corporation where you're going to have a number of facilities and each one is going to be culturally sensitive to the people that live in that area. There you go. And then next word gets out and you have the best place going.
That's right. If you have good food and people who can speak the language that is needed at that facility, that's going to go a long way towards making people feel comfortable.
Right.
And that's all I have.
Very cool, guys. All right. Peace, isn't she brilliant? She's awesome. And you guys have the best team ever here, which is very cool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut down until next week. You guys hang in there and take care.